This video is for Chapter 12 in our book, Vaughn's Doing Ethics, and the topic is Equality and Affirmative Action. Affirmative action is a way of correcting for discrimination based on race, ethnicity, or gender. Now, affirmative action practices have grown quite a bit over the past 50 years from their original focus of ending discrimination to now being active policies that pursue equality through proportional representation. Affirmative action is based on the idea that people are equals and equals ought to be treated equally. But the moral questions that affirmative action raises are many. Should people be given special treatment simply because they are members of a particular group? Should members of a group that was previously discriminated against be given special treatment to make amends for that past discrimination? Can affirmative action lead to a just and diverse society, or does it just create more divisions in society? So let's take a look at the pros and the cons. So the arguments in favor of affirmative action conclude that such policies are of benefit to women and minorities and thus benefit society overall. That they promote tolerance and diversity. It's also argued that the opportunities created by affirmative action policies allow for women and minorities to succeed in ways they have never succeeded before, thus providing role models for future generations and giving women and minorities a new sense of hope in society. And it's argued ultimately that through affirmative action, racism will be ended, that we will in fact have a colorblind society. Now, the arguments against affirmative action are equally as utilitarian. It's argued that the consequences the proponents claim are not nearly as beneficial as they are supposed to be, and that in fact they can actually create consequences that are quite harmful to society. Opponents also assert that there's no proven connection between diversity in representation and changes in belief, meaning that mixing people of different races, ethnicities, and genders may create outward tolerance, but it's no guarantee that the internal changes that need to take place in people's belief systems will naturally arise. Affirmative action, they also argue, not only will not end racism, but it actually worsens the divisions between groups in society. Preferential treatment may create the stigma of inferiority. So rather than allowing people to have access to opportunities they do not otherwise have, people given special treatment are seen as needing special treatment, making them somehow less than those who are able to succeed without those opportunities. Opponents also reject the role model argument, countering that perhaps it's better to choose role models based on accomplishments and not merely on the color of their skin or their gender. But deeper than these arguments just about whether affirmative action policies do what they say are the notions of justice and equality that are used in the discussions. Righting past wrongs is often used as a way of justifying affirmative action policies. And this is based on the idea that justice is defined as restoring balance or undoing harm. But the question that most often surfaces with this use of justice is that in order to define justice in such a way that the person who was harmed actually must be the direct beneficiary of the benefits, and the person who committed the harm must be the one who pays. Well, affirmative action does not meet this standard, and so it's seen as an unjust form of compensation. It's argued that it does not meet this standard because the people who are discriminated against, the groups who are discriminated against, have gained all of the access to the opportunities that used to belong exclusively to the to the privileged class. And to further complicate this issue, it's often unclear whether the equality to be granted in affirmative action is equality of opportunity or equality of outcome. And this is a very big difference. Equality of opportunity seeks to provide a level playing field for all individuals in society, so that all have equal access to opportunities for success. How equality of opportunity actually plays out in public policy varies tremendously. For the questions come up as to whether equality of opportunity simply means equal access to educational and job training opportunities, or whether there should be some attempt to equalize conditions of living to the greatest extent possible, so that equal opportunity is there from birth. We see equality of outcome sneak into the affirmative action debate in the assumption that equal opportunity for education and job training will result in a more equitable and representative distribution of people in various jobs, so eliminating the divide that keeps white men at the top of the power structure and women and minorities at the bottom. Now, the resolution to the moral dilemmas that are presented by affirmative action seem to lie in the lack of clarification of their purpose. So what is it exactly that we're trying to accomplish through affirmative action? And this lack of clear purpose arises from the various ways in which the values of freedom and equality and justice inform the debate. So happy reading. This is a tough issue, and I wish you well.